How's it going, guys? Back again, once again, with another podcast episode. It is just a single solo episode once again today with your boy Jarett, aka JRiceSports. Uh, I will preface this by saying I'm sorry we've been kind of slacking on the videos as late. I am a college student. I've been struggling with finals. It's the end of the semester, and then both Tom and Jose have been feeling a little under the weather recently. But hopefully they're getting a little bit better. We'll get back into the swing of things. We're getting heating up towards playoff time, and it's more entertaining football. And hopefully, we come back a little bit stronger and get back on top of things. But today we are just going to do the picks episode, which we are recording this a little late. It is, as of me recording this, it is Saturday night, technically Sunday morning after I got off work. Yeah, we again kind of slacking a little bit, but it is what it is. We're gonna get it out before Sunday, so we aren't like lying about any of the scores or anything. But it's fine. It's no biggie. But before we get into that, I will pop up the socials real quick. So if you guys want to follow us at Cool Sports Guy on Twitter, the Cool Sports Guy on Instagram, or Facebook.com/Cool Sports Guy. And to just kind of plug myself a little bit, if you guys want to follow me on TikTok at JRiceSports, I do post a little bit more Bears-specific news there, but, also a little bit of a fun time. But to make sure this isn't too long of a video, I'll get right into the picks. Excuse me. Without further ado, we're going to start with Browns at Texans. It is the return of Deshaun Watson returning to Houston, play his former team, the Houston Texans. We all know how I feel about Watson and the Browns. I don't really need to rant about it for another 20 minutes. I don't like Deshaun Watson. I think that obviously I don't think he should be playing in the league anymore at this point. It just not a good dude. With that being said, the Browns are a much better team than the Texans. But I also do bet against the Browns like every week just because I despise them as a franchise that much. And then, Jose being a Texans fan, Tom's kind of on the same boat as me where he doesn't like Watson. He doesn't think Watson's an elite quarterback. Neither do I. But so, it could go 50-50 even given how bad the Houston Texans are this year. Which first off, we're going to start with Tom, who ended up along with Jose picking the Houston Texans. I did not go that far. I did pick the Cleveland Browns here. I don't think that the Texans are a good team. I don't think the Browns are necessarily a good team either, and I don't think they're going to be that much better with Watson instead of Jacoby Brissett, because I think Brissett's played well enough to, keep a starting job if they didn't pay $250 million guaranteed to Watson. I think the Texans are a bad team. I would be thrilled if the Texans win this game. For one, the Bears could get maybe potentially the number 1 draft pick, and for two, I really despise Deshaun Watson, and I think it'd be hilarious for the Texans to win in his return to the NFL after 2 years, and a return against his former team, who's like the bottom of the barrel NFL team wise. I think it would just be a funny situation. So I would not mind the Texans winning, but I am, I guess, the lone person going with the Browns here. So moving on, we have the Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons, which Falcons a little bit of hatred for me personally for them right now. They hurt my boy Justin Fields, but it is what it is. I think neither of these teams are necessarily good teams. I personally like the Falcons a little bit more. I think they're very under the radar, and they still have a shot at winning their division, which may not happen, but it could happen. And I think that they have a solid roster, and I really like their coach with Arthur Smith. But it's just neither team are great. They both have kind of a mediocre roster. I think that their coaching is what brings their talent level higher than what they actually are. With that being said, I guess I am up first. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cough. But I went with the Atlanta Falcons. Like I said, I like their coaching just a little bit more. Not coaching, I like their talent a little bit more. I think their coaching, I think Mike Tomlin's probably the better coach, but I really like Arthur Smith. I think he's very underrated as a coach. I know they're missing like Kyle Pitts, even though he hasn't really done much this year. But Mariota's kind of hot and cold. Sometimes he'll have some very solid weeks. And Drake London, I really, really like. I wasn't super high on him coming into the draft, if I'm being completely honest, but he has been, pretty solid from a rookie wide receiver standpoint. Excuse me. But he's been pretty solid there. And Tyler Algier at running back out of BYU, he's pretty solid as well. I know TJ Watt's back, which makes me kind of want to pick the Steelers just because I think TJ Watt's that good of a player that he's a game changer. That's what he is, and could, get them the win there. But I did in the end decide to stick with the Falcons here. Tom ended up going with Pittsburgh, and it looks like Jose picked Pittsburgh as well. So again, I am the lone wolf here. So hopefully that turns out well for me, and I kind of catch up. I think I caught up to Tom record wise, still quite a bit behind Jose, but with games like these, I could catch up. It's possible. Next up, we have the Broncos at the Ravens, which I feel like this one should be very, very easy. Listen, the Broncos they're not doing great. The whole Broncos country, let's ride. They have not been doing a whole lot of riding. They've been doing a whole lot of, losing. But the Broncos were such a disappointment. I was thinking that was going to be like the best division of all time. The Raiders were disappointments. The Broncos were debatably even bigger disappointments. The Chargers have been a big disappointment to me personally as well. I think they've played a lot worse than their record shows. The only good team really is the Chiefs. So I think maybe the best team in football, but it was supposed to be, the best division of all time. 4 great teams, but it's like 2 bad teams, a mediocre team, and a great team. Excuse me. With that being said, Tom went with the Baltimore Ravens. I also went with the Baltimore Ravens, and so did Jose, making it, for the first time. All 3 of us agree. I think the Ravens are just that much better of a team. I think the Ravens have been a disappointment, honestly, from my point of view as well. They haven't been awful, but they've just lost leads at the end of games way too many times. I have no confidence in them in the playoffs, even though I was talking them up all off season and going into the season. But I'm very scared because the defense has talent and they should not be giving away leads like they are. With it happening, they've got to do something, change something up. I know they traded for Roquan, and that doesn't seem to help either. But they're going to have to turn something around because those leads, you can't be losing leads like that. Like, it's just not going to go well for you in the long run. But with that being said, I think that the Broncos offense is too bad to even come back from a deficit as well. Apparently I'm going under the weather as well with this cough. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, like I said, Ravens, all 3 of us went with. So I feel like that was pretty self-explanatory. The Ravens are just a much better football team. Next up, the Green Bay Packers traveling to my Chicago Bears. I don't want to say much about this game. But I guess I kind of have to, being the Bears fan here. Fields is going to be playing, and so is Aaron Rodgers. As of now, that's what they've said is going to happen. But the Bears roster got so injured against the Jets at MetLife. Darnell Mooney, our number 1 receiver, out for the year. Eddie Jackson, our best defensive player, out for the year. Jaquan Brisker, still dealing with concussions, not playing. Excuse me. Kyler Gordon, our number 2 corner, he's not playing with a concussion as well. Claypool's a little banged up, and Fields is a little banged up. They're both playing, but again, that's some injuries for you. Green Bay, I don't think is a good team. I think that they've shown that time and time again this year. But I think they are still a better team than the Bears. Aaron Rodgers, I think talent-wise, excuse me, this season is very on par with Justin Fields. I think they've had very equal seasons. But the teams around them, I think I would definitely give to Green Bay. And plus, there's the whole Aaron Rodgers owning us thing. I hate it. That's the one thing that will get under my skin, is because I hate that's all Green Bay Packers fans ever say. But is it kind of true? Yes. Will it be true for the next 5 years? Probably not. I think once Rodgers is gone, they're done. But for now, it's still the case. I'm kind of embracing the tank, and I wouldn't be mad if the Bears lost. I want that number 2 pick so we can trade down and, get a king's ransom for the number 2 pick so someone could trade up for Stroud or Bryce Young. But I wouldn't be mad if the Bears won either, but I did go with the Green Bay Packers here. Looks like Tom did too, and Jose. It's a 3-way agreement for that one, which kind of hurts my soul that no one picks the Bears, but they have only won 3 games this year, so it's not that surprising. Excuse me. Next up, we have the Jaguars at the Detroit Lions. The Lions, I thought were going to be a lot better than they have been this season. I think they're kind of turning it around a little bit right now, but still haven't been great. They definitely had a very good offense so far this year. Excuse me, I am sorry. Uh, they have a good offense, but they haven't really been able to stop anyone. But they've been in games, kind of like how the Bears have been. Minus the fact the Bears have a much better quarterback in Fields than Jared Goff. No disrespect to Goff, but I think that's pretty obvious when you watch the games. I really like this Lions team. I feel like they fight for their coach very well. On the other side of things, Trevor Lawrence, I think, is getting up. Like, he's reaching his breakout just like Fields did. Fields just did it a little bit earlier. And Lawrence has looked great the last few weeks. I have been very impressed with what I've seen, especially the end, the last drive against the Ravens, which I know everyone comes back on the Ravens, but it was still impressive against the solid defense nonetheless. Lions have a much worse defense. I expect Trevor Lawrence to have a very big game here. I think he'll probably, I don't know, if you have fantasy, I would start him in your fantasy league, honestly, against the Lions. I think he's in for a big game. The Lions, I think, are going to make this a close game, but I think that the Jaguars are a better team. They're better coached and better talent overall. So I would go with the Jaguars here. And looks like Tom does as well, and Jose. And once again, we all three agree on the game once again, as we all go with the Jaguars here. I'm sorry for the water breaks. I just have a very dry throat right now. I don't know why. The next one we have is the Jets at the Vikings, which, the Vikings were, they're frauds. They haven't beat any good teams. One time they played the good team was the Eagles and they got blown out. I think the Vikings are a good team. I don't think they're scary, elite championship contenders. No one can beat them type of team. But I think they're a contender who definitely could make noise in the playoffs. That offense is just scary. As long as you get good Kirk Cousins, which I know is a big question mark anyways. But if you get good Kirk, that's probably one of the most unstoppable offenses in the entire NFL. The Jets, I think the Jets are a quarterback away, which I'm not saying Zach Wilson's not the answer, but it's looking like he's not the answer, which is very disappointing because, you always want to see young talent come in. Sorry. Mike White, I don't think he's the answer either. I think he's kind of like a Taylor Heineke. He can go in there and win you some games, but he's not like a franchise kind of guy. You're definitely going to keep trying to replace him, but he's a game manager safe option. And I think he's better than what Zach Wilson has been this year and thus far into the season. But the Vikings also have a very solid defense. Patrick Peterson looks like he's in the prime of his career right now, which is insane. Patrick Peterson's one of my favorite NFL players of all time. So even though he's on the Vikings, I'm not super mad about it. But I think this will be a good game. I think the Jets are very competitive. I like Robert Saleh as coach. I think he keeps them in most games. But I do think the Vikings are the better team here. Tom went with the Vikings as well. I went with the Vikings and Jose. And once again, we all three agree on the game as we go with the Vikings against the Jets. Next up, we have the Commanders at the Giants, which again, MetLife, I would be scared if you're a Commanders fan. There's probably some injuries that are going to happen here. But the Commanders, they have very much surprised me. I thought they were a very bad team going into the year. Even week one, they beat the Jaguars, but it wasn't very impressive. But that defensive line has looked insane. Chase Young's coming back soon. I don't think, and I'm not saying the Giants are bad, but I think the Giants are more of frauds than any other team I've seen. I think they are definitely a competitive team and will be in every game and give themselves a chance to win every game. But I don't think they're as good as everyone makes them seem. Daniel Jones is still their quarterback, who has had a better year, but he still hasn't been anywhere near good. And matched up against this Commanders defense, who has looked really, really good in most games this year. That defensive line, which I've been doing some film study on Daron Payne, which again, plugging my TikTok, JRiceSports, I'm going to be releasing a Daron Payne film review probably in the next couple days, maybe a week tops. But the Commanders defense has been great. The Giants have been good, yes, but I think that after that loss against Detroit, it's kind of like everyone's starting to realize, this is still the Giants. They're not like an elite contender team. They're just like a middle of the road team. I think the Commanders are too, but I like the Commanders defense a little bit more, so I went with them. It looks like Tom went with the Giants. So it's another agreement between the two of us at least. And Jose went with the Washington Commanders as well. Sorry. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Titans are another team who have kind of surprised me, at least personally. I had them getting second in the division, but not even making the playoffs. And they have looked by far the best team in the division. Derrick Henry looks, just as good as he did last year before the injury. Tannehill, I think, is still a big question mark once they get to the playoffs, but as of the regular season, it's fine. Mike Vrabel, I think, is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think that's not even debatable. But they're traveling against the Eagles, who have the best record in football. I think this is honestly a lot closer than you would think, given that the Eagles are one of the teams playing in this game. But I think, me personally, I think the Eagles are still a better team. They definitely have shown that they're beatable after the Washington game. But if you get Jalen Hurts going, get him in rhythm, I think that's one of the most unstoppable teams in the entire league. Obviously, given they've lost one game. And I think Jordan Davis, if I'm not mistaken, I hope I'm not wrong because I'm going to sound really dumb right now. I think Jordan Davis is back, which helps that run defense. And the best way to beat the Titans, obviously, is to stop Derrick Henry. And I think Jordan Davis is the kind of guy who can do that. You got to plug up the middle. If you slow down Derrick Henry whatsoever, you put yourself in a lot better chance to win. And I think the Eagles have a very good run defense with Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox. They signed Ndamukong Suh. They've got a good D-line. I think that they'll be fine. I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles here. Tom actually picks the Titans, which is a bit of a surprise. I actually have not seen any of these picks before going into this. But that's a bit of a shocker to me. I feel like he hasn't been that high on the Titans. I could be wrong, but that's an interesting pick for him. I went with the Eagles, obviously, and Jose once again agrees with me and is going with the Eagles here. Which I might have a really good shot at catching up on picks this week. Hopefully, if all games go well for me. Next up, we have the Seahawks at the Rams. Matthew Stafford was put on the IR, so he's basically out for the year. Cooper Kupp's not playing. Allen Robinson's not playing. Aaron Donald, I don't think, is even playing in this game. The Rams are battered. I think the Seahawks are better than their record. Geno Smith has looked like a legit MVP candidate. I love the Rams. I love Cooper Kupp. With all those injuries, they stand no chance. I think this should be, injuries have killed the Rams this year, and Matthew Stafford not playing well in general has also hurt them. But the Seahawks, I think, are finally getting. I have picked the Rams more than I should, and I'm finally giving the Seahawks their respect and saying that they're going to beat the Rams this week. Next up, we have the potential Super Bowl faced off in Week 13 with the Dolphins and the 49ers. I love both these teams. I wasn't very high on the 49ers going into this season. Tom was, and I kind of clowned on him for it because I'm like, they don't have Lance with the injury. Jimmy G isn't that great of a quarterback. I don't see them making it far. But after the McCaffrey trade, that offense has looked insane. The defense has always been great. D'Amico Ryan's probably going to be a head coach next year. Overall, a great team. Shanahan's a mastermind on the offense. Mike McDaniels on the other side with the Dolphins, he has done wonders for Tua. That receiver core is insane, and it's very, very difficult to stop. I don't think there's really a team that can stop it. You can just hope to slow it down, which Tom went with the 49ers here. I actually went with the Miami Dolphins. I think this will be a very, very close game, but like I said, it's very hard to stop that Dolphins offense. I've seen it firsthand. I've actually, after I watched the Bears game when they played the Dolphins, where Justin Fields had a great game, mind you, but watching that offense, I get our defense is bad, but that offense marched the field all over us. It was not even close whatsoever. And so I went back and watched some more Dolphins games, and I've kind of been keeping an eye on them more. They're insane. That offense is insane. The offensive line hasn't been bad. Their running back core is probably the weak link of the team, but again, not even bad. And then you add Tua, who's been playing a top 10, top 5 quarterback. Then you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, two of the most dangerous receivers in the NFL. And Mike Gesicki, who's basically a receiver at tight end. That's a pretty hard offense to stop. Their defense hasn't been as good, but it's also not bad either. It's definitely more middle of the pack, but when you mix that with the top offense, it's a very, very good team. I think this is probably the biggest toss-up of the week. So I guess Jose is going to be the tiebreaker here. who he went with the 49ers. So again, good chance for me to make a comeback, I hope. But I think both these teams are very good. And I think this is a very, very well could be a potential Super Bowl matchup. Chiefs at the Bengals could be a potential AFC Championship game, similar to last year. I think the Bengals are kind of coming into their own. They started off with a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover, but they at least snapped out of that, unlike the Rams. But the Chiefs, I think, are the best team in football right now. I've been saying it was the Bills all year, but they've kind of looked very beatable in a few of the games. The Chiefs have looked insane. As always, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet. It's not even close. And then Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie running back out of Rutgers, I believe. He's done pretty well at the running back spot. I know Edwards-Helaire is a little banged up. I'm not sure if he's playing in this game. And the receiver core, Juju, Sky Moore. They traded for Kadarius Toney. Travis Kelce's a glorified, tight end, basically wide receiver as well. The offensive line is solid. Mix that with the best quarterback on the planet. That's a great offense. Their defense is very underrated as well. I think Chris Jones is probably the best defensive tackle in football, not named Aaron Donald. The Bengals, I think, are a good team and will make this a competitive game. And I know they kind of beat them twice last year, but I can't not pick the Chiefs here. I just think that they're on a hot streak and they're the best team in football right now, so I'm going with the Chiefs. Tom, another disagreement is he's going with the Bengals. Last time we and him disagreed on a bunch of games in the week, he got like all of them right. So hopefully that's not the case on this one, as Jose once again agrees with me. So me and Jose, great minds think alike. I wish he had disagreed on some more and I got them right so I can catch up, but I'll take what I can get. Next up, we have the Chargers and the Raiders, which I think the Raiders, if they have any chance of, making the playoffs, they have to basically win out the rest of the year, and that's even a long shot. But the Chargers have been big disappointments. Herbert, hurt his ribs and kind of looked shaky since. Their defense hasn't looked great. They've had a lot of injuries. I think the Raiders obviously have been bigger disappointments, but I feel like people gloss over how bad the Chargers have looked most of the time this year. With that being said, Tom picks the Chargers. I pick the Chargers, and Jose picks the Chargers as well. I know I just kind of hated on the Chargers a lot right there, but that's still a good team. I think Brandon Staley, who I was very high on, and I thought people overhated him. I am now changing my stance. Excuse me. I think Staley's not a great coach, and he's probably going to get fired this year at the end of this year, especially if they don't make the playoffs, because you cannot make that many years with a quarterback like Justin Herbert not make the playoffs. I don't see a chance they don't. I think that they definitely are a playoff team, but if they don't, Staley's definitely fired. The Raiders have been disappointments, and I think they're kind of turning it around as of late, but they're still, I'd say, a bad team, so they're definitely going to have to turn things around. So I'm going to go with the Chargers here. Next up, we have Sunday Night Football. We have the Colts at the Dallas Cowboys, which the Colts, another team, kind of looked like they were turning things around once they got Jeff Saturday, which, again, one of the most obscure coach hirings of recent memory, just kind of like hired off of his couch. No experience coaching the NFL. Now he's a head coach of the Colts, and they won their first game. Then they were competitive against the Eagles, too, which is pretty crazy. But they're traveling to Dallas, who have probably the best defensive football, the soon-to-be defensive player of the year in Micah Parsons. I don't think this will be close, honestly. I think the Cowboys are a much, much better team. If they play to their ability, I think this will be a blowout in the Cowboys' favor. So to make it short and sweet, I did go with the Cowboys, Tom with the Cowboys, and Jose went with the Cowboys as well. I like the Colts, and they were my pick for the division winner. I know Tom was really high on Matt Ryan going into the year. Didn't turn out that way. He got benched for a few weeks to Sam Ehlinger, but the Colts, I think, aren't a bad team. I think they're very middle of the pack, but the Cowboys, I think, are one of the best teams in football. And I know Cowboys fans always say, this is our year. This is our year. This may genuinely be their year. They are borderline scary good at certain points. And so I'm going with the Cowboys here. Next up, we have the Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all know where Tom's going with the Buccaneers here. I went with the Buccaneers as well, and Jose went with the Bucs. The Saints, I didn't think were going to be great this year, but I thought they'd be a lot better than they have been. They've looked bad. Jameis Winston, wasn't great and then got hurt. Andy Dalton comes in, looked okay. Okay at first, kind of looked a lot worse as of late. But overall, not a great team, and they don't even have their first round pick. That's going to the Philadelphia Eagles, which is insane that the Eagles are going to be a great team and get probably a pretty early pick. I don't think the Buccaneers are a great team either, but it's just whoever you play in front of you just so happens to be a worse team. I think you get a win there, which definitely boosts their odds for winning the division. I don't see the Saints winning this. I know they beat Brady in the regular season every time until this year, which me and Tom actually went to the game in New Orleans, which was super fun. But I don't think the Bucs are a good team, and I don't think this is like, oh, they're turning it around. I just genuinely think the Saints are a worse team, and it's very hard for the Bucs to lose this one. So we all went with the Bucs here, which wraps up the picks for the week. Luckily, because my throat is killing me right now, maybe I wasn't the best choice to be doing this either, but it is what it is. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Again, there's our social medias. If you guys want to check us out, see us on other platforms, on Twitter at CoolSportsGuy, on Instagram at the CoolSportsGuy, at Facebook, excuse me, on Facebook at facebook.com/CoolSportsGuy. And then also, we haven't really added it on the graphic yet. We, as CoolSportsGuy, we do have a TikTok as well, which is I produced at CoolSportsGuy on TikTok, and then plugging my own I don't really post on YouTube, but my YouTube TikTok is JRiceSports if you want to check that out as well. That's about all we have for today. Hopefully everyone in the group, feels a little bit better. We get back to things next week. I'm done with finals, so I'll have more free time to help out and get things done. So hopefully I'll see you one more time before we get to the excuse me, before we get to the picks for next week. I hope to have a mid-season or a midweek episode next week as well. Hopefully that happens. If not, I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry. But without further ado,